Okay, so let me share what just happened in last 60 seconds while I was speaking. So this is statistics from 2020. So of course it has just increased in 2021. So this is what has happened in last 1 minute over internet. 19 million texts have been sent across the world. 4.7 million videos have been viewed on YouTube. For 4 lakh apps have been downloaded through Google Play or App Store. 6 lakh 94,444 scrolling time on Instagram. Similarly, for tweets, for Twitter, Tinder, Twitch, emails, TikTok, the kind of buying, if you see Netflix, Snapchat, Facebook, Google, this is what is happening every 60 seconds on internet as we speak, as we are here in the Zoom session. So of course this does not include how much Zoom meetings have been happening, how much Zoom has been used or consumed, or all other such platforms like Zoom, WebEx, Teams, etc. How much this has been consumed in the last 60 seconds as we speak. So this is the pace of learning, this is the pace of, the way things are happening right now where we live. Exciting. So I'll be glad to hear from all of you in the chat box, or you can even unmute yourself and speak. So now where does this land us? If this is what is happening, how do we remain relevant in this? So this is exciting, but how do we cope up with all these things that are happening right now, and especially when it comes to Gen Z and Gen Alpha? So since I think we have already understood a little bit about Gen Z and Gen Alpha, so just if you could give me a little idea of what you understand of Gen Z and Gen Alpha. What is the first thing that comes in your mind when we say Gen Z and Gen Alpha? What is the first thing that comes in your mind? So you can even unmute yourself and speak, or write in the chat box. Okay, so let me share some very exciting insights about how generations across domains, so starting from all of us millennials, then of course data analysis, data insights, so they are extremely data strong. But then what, apart from what separates Gen Z from Gen Alpha also, and what separates them from us and millennials and all these generations, what is different in them, and how do we cope up with the differences that are existing and still make a mark in it and still remain relevant to Gen Z and Gen Alpha. So while all this is happening, and you can all see, this is the future of learning. So much people are learning through this platform, through 60 seconds that is happening every over internet. So where does it land us? How and why should the learners not use these platforms and come to us for learning? What should be, what is it that we will do different with Gen Z and Gen Alpha? And if you see, all these 60 seconds are being consumed majorly by millennial onwards, millennial, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, so they are the biggest consumers. So why will they come to us, leave this and they'll come to us? So college students and Gen Alpha kindergarten, very true. So all those who are born after 2010 are in the Gen Alpha category. So even, so you can see probably 10 years, 11-year-old kids will be Gen Alpha generation. So what separates them, and why would they leave all these platforms and come to us? So while of course we are also available to them right now, more through the digital platform, more through Zooms, Team, etc., but still Instagram is more exciting for them than Zoom. Facebook is more exciting, or rather, not even Insta now. They're on TikTok and many other platforms. Of course, TikTok is not there in India anymore, but then outside kids, Netflix is more, charming for them. So why would they leave Netflix? Why would they leave Insta and come to us? why would this generation come to us leaving all these platforms? So that is something that we need to answer. To answer that, what is important is to really understand what are the crucial differences between these generations, so that we understand, once we understand the characteristics of these generations, only then we can come to a fact that what do we do about these differences. So this is an overview of all the generations: Generation X, Y, Z, Alpha, baby bloomers, and builders also. So if you see specifically, if we talk about Generation Z and Alpha, so you can see the slang terms that they use. So if you see the kindergarten, or those who are 7, 8 years old or 11 years old, the kind of slang that they have is very different from Gen Z also. So, do we understand their slang? Do we understand Generation Z's slang? Do we understand what they are saying? So, what kind of startups are they running? So, what kind of products and services have emerged during from Gen Z, and what kind of products and services can come up from Gen Alpha? Are we ready to learn that? Because what Gen Z and Gen Alpha may be producing and bringing up in the market, bringing up to the platform, to all of us, will be very different and will be very new to what we have ever seen in our life. Are we ready for that? So now if you see the iconic cars that are there for across generations. So for us, if you see, Ford Mustang was a classic thing, or Toyota. Now for Gen Z, Tesla is something. Tesla Model S is very prevalent, but then it is not for Gen Alpha. For Gen Alpha, Tesla may be a something outdated thing. So what is new for them is autonomous vehicles. So even before Tesla is there to set up in Bangalore, everything, for Gen Alpha, it is already something past. So how do we cope up with this? Iconic toys, if you see, music devices. So Spotify, again, for us, maybe we are still getting used to Spotify. So okay, just a very quick question. Since we are talking about these different platforms and different things, how many of us listen to podcast? I'll come to the creating podcast later, but let's start with an easy question. How many of us listen to podcast, and how frequently we listen to podcast, if we do? I hope we are familiar with podcasts. How many of us listen to podcasts? So podcasts are also available on Spotify, on Ghana, on all these platforms. So apart from just even, in fact, Google Podcast is also available. So podcasts have many platforms. How many of us listen to podcasts? So you can just write yes or no. Quick, let's be quick. Okay. So I see one yes. Come on. It's okay. See, we are all in this learning phase. So even if it is a no, I think the first and foremost thing is to accept if it's a no. Yes, it's a Pocket FM. How many of us, even if it's no, it's all right. Okay. Okay. So I'm seeing more yes, and it's okay to be a no also. Yes, come on. I would love to listen from all of you. Sometimes. Okay. Great. So I think it's important for us to be completely honest, so that we know where we have to focus on from here onwards. So uh, Spotify again is a great platform for podcasts. But again, for Gen Z, it is still something that they, follow most. But for Gen Alpha, again, Spotify and all these platforms are outdated. So what is more for them is smart speakers like Siri, like the HomePod, and many other things. In fact, very interestingly, I'll share a story with you. So we have HomePod at our home, and it's not just that we are using HomePod, or rather, I feel we are just using. Uh, we are able to use only 10 or 20% of the aspect of the features of HomePod. And interestingly, my father, who is 72, he talks a lot with the HomePod, with Siri. He keeps talking a lot. He tries to, in fact, he's trying to explain, talk in Multani with trying to teach a language, new language to to Siri, to the HomePod. And it's very amazing that probably in some time, if he continues to do that, maybe it will learn Multani. Who knows? Because that is one functionality, one feature of HomePod AI, that it has to learn from. It will continue to learn from whatever commands is being given to it. So this is very interesting, that and I could see that this is the essence of learning, that how my father, even at this age, is trying to learn, because while he's speaking to Siri, he is also learning how to speak to her, so that she is able to give the right command and he gets the right output from her. So while he is learning, the Siri is learning. So there's a two-way process what is happening, and I felt this feature of this learnability skill is something that probably even I need to talk, maybe to start talking with Siri more, so that I understand the features and I am able to relate to Gen Alpha more. Because if I don't understand the features and we are just using it to sing, to play some songs and everything, so I'm just having 10 to 20% of understanding of this this entire product, and I won't be able to relate to Gen Alpha. For me to be able to do that, I need to probably do similar to what my father is doing. So this learnability skill is something very interesting and can come to us very easy if we just start doing it, right? So like I mentioned, smart speakers, leadership style. Now this is very interesting, because we are all professors, we are in the learning domain. If we are still in this habit of controlling and directing the students we are teaching, then we are probably not matching what they are supposed, how they learn. Controlling, directing is long gone. Empowering is something that Gen Z is able to learn from. And for Gen Alpha, they get inspired. They do not do what we ask them to do. They will not do what they are directed to do. They will do what they inspires them. If we do something that is inspiring for them, they will replicate it. They will never follow the directions. Isn't it true? We find a very hard time that we keep giving directions. Even for Gen Z, they are not even following directions. If we empower them with the right tools, they will probably feel empowered and they'll do it. But directing, coordinating, guiding also doesn't work. So mimics everything. Yes, absolutely, they mimic everything, and they, if we empower them with the right tools, so all probably so there are a lot of experiments done to even see, do these generation Gen Z and Gen Alpha, do they even need us? So there was a lot of experiments done, that if they're given the tablets and they're given a very, so this was an experiment done with fifth class graders. They were given tablets, so iPad and all those basic things, so to give them the digital platform exposure. And they were said, and nothing was told to them that, okay, you need to do this, you need to do this with the tablets, nothing. They were just given the tablets, and these fifth class graders were given problems of eighth class graders. So they were given science topics, and very very uh, intriguing topics, which is very difficult for an eighth grader or a ninth grader also to understand. These were fifth class students, and they were just given 1 month, and nothing was told to them, just the topics and the tablets, the platform, the tool. And interestingly, they were able to perform when after a month they were given the test, they were able to perform, and they were all above average, and probably 70 to 80, 70% was the average score of this entire class. So empowering them with the right tools, and they are ready to learn. So now again, if this is our role, to empower them, not to control them, not to direct them, not to coordinate, not to guide, not even to guide, just to empower and inspire them. So this is what we need to do. We cannot be in a directing mode anymore. We cannot be in a guiding mode anymore. So this is something that we need to keep a check on ourselves, that when I am speaking to Gen Z, am I guiding them, or am I just empowering them by right tools, right questions? So what works most with the leadership style that will work most with Gen Y, Gen Z is coaching method. And coaching is something that is reverse of training, reverse of teaching, educating, reverse of that, because we believe in coaching, the first ground step is that they already know, and just by empowering them, by asking the right questions, we are going to lead them to what they already know. So that is how leadership style works with these generation. Now if you see, the ideal leader for them will be somebody who's a collaborator, who's a co-creator, and learning style for them is multimodal or virtual. So virtual is the new reality. So of course, we have been hearing this a lot right now, virtual is the new reality, but yes, it is. So for alpha generation, they are there on podcast, they are listening to podcast, they are on all these platforms that I have just shown to you what's happening in 60 seconds over internet. So they're all over those platforms, and it's all virtual, nothing is physical. All these platforms are virtual and they're all there. Right? So virtual does not just mean Zoom. Virtual just does not mean Teams, Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, etc. Virtual does not limit to that. Virtual is Netflix. Virtual is Tinder. Virtual is Instagram. Virtual is YouTube. Virtual is podcast, audio. So that's also virtual. So all these platforms are virtual. So it is not limited to Zoom. Right? And of course, there are chatbots. They are most influenced by chatbots, and marketing strategy for them is real time and digital. So if I have to reach to my students, if I have to reach to them, it has to be through social media. Of course, I'm more connected with my audience through social media, through podcasts, through all the platforms where they can see me, they can reach out to me, and they can hear what I have to say to them. And more real-time basis. Of course, Zoom and all these platforms make it more real-time basis, but digital and real-time. So this is Gen Z and Gen Alpha. Any questions so far? I'll be glad to take it up. So I wanted to be more interactive session, so that if you have any questions, you want to just share anything, your experiences, please feel free. Now is the time. Okay, so I'm going to I'm going to ask a very interesting question to all of you. We all know the platforms that are existing towards the future of learning. How much percentage do you think across all these platforms, how much percentage of people who are using these platforms, how much percentage create content on these platforms, push content? How much percentage roughly? So if we talk about, for example, LinkedIn, or if we talk about Instagram, or we talk about Facebook, uh, as per the number of users who are there on LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook, how much percentage do you think are posting content on these platforms? Quick. Okay. Come on. Okay. Okay. We say 50, 30, 20, 40. What else? What do you think? How many percentage of people are posting content on these platforms? That content can be anything, even a reshare or anything. Yes. So I think Neha has got the answer. So Neha, surprisingly, it's not just on LinkedIn, but it is on every social media platform. It is 1%. It is 1%. Only 1% of the entire users of that platform, of any particular platform, are posting content or creating content for the platform, and rest 99% are content consumers. So imagine the kind of scope you have if you start today creating, posting content on any of these platforms, be it Insta, Facebook, YouTube, podcast, LinkedIn, absolutely any platform. Choose one platform from where you want to start creating content and creating your presence digitally for Gen Z and Gen Alpha. And then see how much you can create that. So you can create niche in that platform. So that can be even podcast, LinkedIn, whatever you choose, whatever you want to feel comfortable with, what is a low hanging fruit for you. But it is 1% right now who post content and 99 consume. So there's a huge scope, absolutely huge scope. So now, of course, all of us are subject matter experts. All of us have something exceptional to share. Now, the only thing is, how do we make it more interesting for Gen Z and Gen Alpha to, really stick on to it and to listen to it? So when we are, of course, posting content, there's a lot of study that we can do on how to post a content which can be made interesting, which there are a multiple amount of softwares that, that can help you to make your content engaging, interesting, and something that they can hook onto. So something that will hook, of course, will be decided in just first 10 seconds of seeing that content. If it's a video content, first 10 seconds are, of course, very crucial, whether they will scroll or they will stick to your video and see completely. So if you're posting a video, so first 10 seconds are extremely crucial. And similarly, if we are posting text content, so what kind of text it is that is engaging, that can create a hook, and they will see the entire content. So there are a lot of aspects that you can go through to understand how to create that content. I'll not go in that detail, but it's most important for us to reach out to that. Now, another interesting insight I'm going to bring to you. So there are three important things that I'm going to, cover in the next 1 hour with you. So, any questions so far before I move on to the next segment? Absolutely, any questions? Please feel free.
Ma'am, good morning, ma'am. I have a question.
Yes.
So how do we make them to focus on their academics or their goals with all such distractions they have in the day-to-day life, which is the biggest challenge that everyone faces as a parent?
Right, right. I think it's a brilliant question. So I will be speaking about learning agility, which will be probably answering this question in detail. So learning agility will, focus on that. So I'll answer that question to you. So in great detail.
Actually, ma'am, I have also one question. One question is that at very tender age also they are very conscious about their image, how their photos are, how what is the WhatsApp status on YouTube, how they are looking, how their peer thinking about them. So, this sort of problem is also there because I am, as a mother, I can guess that.
Very good question. So I think the latest, all the, so which is why, it's important for us also, if we have to understand them and if we have to have the right answers to them, it is important to also be in the same, you know, aspect of content that they consume. So, for example, I'll just share, I have been watching one of the latest web series, Bold Type. in which there was this very amazing, one clip of the similar thing where the girl is extremely conscious and she decides not to go for a school photograph because she feels she does not look nice. And of course she sees a bright aspect of all her classmates on Instagram, all of them posting. In fact, if I see younger generations also right now, the kind of pictures they post on Instagram, it has to be perfect. It cannot have anything except for what is not perfect for them. So even if deep down they're feeling extremely different emotions, but what is on Insta has to be perfect. So one, of course, for the to be able to explain our Gen Z and Gen Alpha that there is something beyond Instagram and everybody what they're experiencing, and of course we can push right content to them through which they can learn by themselves. Like I mentioned, it is not about us guiding them, but empowering with the right tools and right videos. So maybe if we can share the right videos with them, that gives them understanding of what is behind Instagram, what is behind Instagram influencers, life of Insta influencers. It's not perfect. It's not what it seems on Insta. Me telling my child will not do much benefit than my child watching the video of this and understanding themselves. Because trust me, the generation that we are talking about is way more resilient also than us. So they are emotionally way more resilient. So in fact, another example is that a very close friend of mine, just 2 days back passed away. And so she's a mother and son in 10th standard, just completed 10th. And while the husband is devastated, he is thought he is very strong, but he is so surprised to see his son, who is way more resilient emotionally, way more stronger than was expected out of him. Losing his mother. So the kind of challenges these kids are seeing emotionally, even when they see perfect pictures on Instagram, there's a lot of emotional thing that happens inside them. A lot of insecurities increase that, oh, I'm not perfect, I cannot post this kind of picture on Insta. So but they learn to cope up with it. So they are way more emotional resilient. The only thing is, if we add on with the right content to them that can help them understand that there's a life behind Insta, so they will be able to, through the emotional resilience that they have already developed, with the right content coming to them, they will have answers for themselves at how do they cope up with all these stress of Insta stress and all these stress. So they will have the right answers. Only thing is, we need to believe and really, really believe that they have that coping mechanism. I just need to empower with the right content to them as a parent.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your valuable suggestion.
great. So I have some very interesting questions on the chat. So how to use LinkedIn efficiently and effectively. So there's a separate course that happens. Sandeep ji, I would request you to browse the activities and profiles of LinkedIn Top Voice. So there are certain people who are LinkedIn Top Voice. I can just write down their names in the chat box so that you can just view their profiles to see what is the differentiator. So so this is one. So these are two that I personally know. These are LinkedIn Top Voice. So why they're LinkedIn Top Voice, you will see the kind of engagement they have on LinkedIn. So there are basically three aspects of LinkedIn that you need to focus on. First is your profile. So for profile, again, like I mentioned, these are LinkedIn Top Voice influencers on LinkedIn. But what you can also see is the topmost LinkedIn profiles on through in your industry. So if, as a professional, technical professional, who are the topmost people? What is common in their profile? So first, you need to optimize your own profile. uh, Secondly, you need to have the right network on LinkedIn. And thirdly, to engage in the most correct manner on LinkedIn. So, okay, thank you. Thank you. That's very quick on sending the request on LinkedIn. But yes, so three things majorly: optimizing your profile, optimizing your network, and optimizing the content and engagement that you create on LinkedIn. So that is how you can use LinkedIn. So of course, there's a separate 1 hour workshop that happens on, optimizing LinkedIn. So that's separate, but these are 3 basic things. See some LinkedIn influencers and you would know what sets them apart and how you can just learn from the best practices that they have adopted, right? Can you list down some softwares to provide engaging content on LinkedIn? Okay, so firstly, I would ask you, all of you, if you have LinkedIn, you know, profiles, just go and see your SSI score. So if you just see SSI LinkedIn, if you just type on Google SSI LinkedIn, so you will get the SSI. The first link will guide you to getting the score of your LinkedIn. Basically, that tells you in 4 domains, it gives you marks out of 25, and then giving a complete score out of 100. How great your profile is and where is the scope of improvement. So it will tell in those 4 categories. So SSI LinkedIn, if you just see the score that you will get, if it is 30 to 40%, 50%, don't worry. If it is above 70, it is very good. If it is not above 70, of course, there is a lot of scope of improvement that you can see the 4 areas it will tell you. Yes. Any other question?
Ma'am, my question, like how to focus the students on their goals.
Yes, how to
How
focus
the distraction.
students on their goals. So the first, okay, so I'll start with this only to answer the question better. So the future of learning is actually it starts from understanding and using learning agility assessment. Learning agility. So what learning agility means? Uh, there's so much out there in terms of learning. People can learn through all aspects of life. Even people learn through their life. People learn through so much. I see people learning guitar, people learning hula hoop and all kind of activities through YouTube. So they don't need to do classes, they don't need to enroll in physical classes, but they learn through YouTube. So learning is all out there. So there was a time, if you see in our time when we were in our childhood times, to have a learning, to go through the learning mechanism, we used to go to school, and it was very important for us to go to school. Imagine the day we used to miss the school. We had to physically go to our friend's place to know what has happened in the school today, because I have skipped learning and I have to physically go to get the learning of the day. So that was that time when we had to physically go to grab learning. Now it is opposite. Whether we want or not, learning is coming to us from all kind of platforms. And the biggest, I feel, the biggest problematic university that we face right now is WhatsApp University. We believe anything and everything that is circulated on WhatsApp. How many of us are enrolled in WhatsApp University by default? We never wanted that, but we have been enrolled in WhatsApp University. How many of us? We never wanted that. Of course, we never wanted that, but we are enrolled to WhatsApp University. So what is happening is that whether we want or not, all kind of, yes, everyone, absolutely. So whether we want or not, it is coming to us. All kind of learning is coming to us. Like I said, the Gen Z, Gen Alpha, Gen Y, they are inspired. They learn from what we do, not what we say. We can tell them hundred of times, focus on your goals, have your goals, do you have your goals, etc., etc. What are you doing with your life? What will happen to you after 10 years? You must do this, you must do that. We can keep saying this and we'll just go through their ears. Nothing will happen, nothing will change. But if they see how goal oriented we as individuals are, that is what will move them. If they see I have the discipline of moving my phone aside and focusing on my work for 2 hours without touching my phone, that will inspire them and that will move them to action of being focused. So we don't need to tell them anything, we just need to do it. How many of us, you know, have this problem in ourselves that, when we are focusing, when we are in the class, okay, the first thing that happens, how many of us have this habit? The moment a class gets over, the first thing we'll do before even having water is to check our phones. I hope there is no WhatsApp, scrolling on FB, scrolling on other platforms. How many of us have this habit? Come on. Yes, okay, people are raising hand. Yes, everyone. So most of us have this habit, right? So how can we expect, if we have the same habit, how can we expect our generation after us to have that focus? So we are having the same issues. So the only thing is we can inspire them, empower them by doing it ourselves. So if I can get into the discipline, so in fact, I was just listening to a very renowned, health expert, Luke Coutinho. I don't know if you have heard of his name. Please go and check, his profile. Luke Coutinho, Luke. Uh, he mentioned three things that are, something, if any of us are going through any kind of health issues, be it back, eyes, any kind of strain, or absolutely any kind of health issue, it stems from three basic things. If we can take care of three things, that is, it will take care of our complete holistic health. So first thing he said was sleep. A lot of time, uh, okay, so I'll just text his name, also type his name here. So first thing he said was sleep. Our body heals most during sleep. So it does not matter how much amount or how much hours of sleep we had. It is about how much hours of deep sleep we had. So people can have 5 hours of deep sleep and wake up extremely fresh. People can sleep for 9 hours of irregular sleep and wake up extremely tired. So it does not matter the amount of hours, but amount of deep sleep we have, the quality of our sleep that we have. So if that is there, of course, a lot of you feel fresh towards the day also, and you will be more focused also. Second thing he mentioned was emotional, our emotional health. If that is strong, we can come up, after any setback, we can come forward. The third thing he mentioned was self discipline. It doesn't matter, there are people who may consume white sugar for, uh, small amount of white sugar, in moderate, and will remain very good. There are people who will do a lot of things. They will work out 5 days a week, and in the weekend they want to have samosa, they want to break the entire thing, and the 5 days of their workout is wasted, and even the next 5 days is wasted. So if self discipline is not there, and this is my take back, that self discipline is not just uh, you know related to health, but for everything, even for learning. How much we are learning every day, what exact, okay, so how much, if we talk about podcast, so, and if we think podcast or LinkedIn is, any platform that you feel is extremely crucial for your learning, how much time do we spend on that? Self discipline, if I have made that discipline, okay, 15 minutes I will learn something new today. Every day I will give 15 minutes to myself to learn something new every day. So am I doing it every day, or I feel, oh, I've been doing it for 5 days, it's okay, let's take a break for 2 days. So if that is there, there's no discipline. So self discipline is a must. So again, if we are supposed to have our generation after us more focused, learning, goal oriented, it starts from us becoming self disciplined. So I'll share how I am trying. In fact, again, all of us are in our trying to be a better version of ourselves every day. So I'll tell you what I am doing. So there were two things that I felt. In fact, third thing I'll be beginning after the second thing is over. So three things I felt I'm going to focus on in 2021. So first was feeling grateful. So I was like, okay, I have to have this innate habit of feeling grateful for everything. So because of course gratitude has its own benefit. So I started with 100 days gratitude challenge. So and this is something that I have been doing So I completed my 100 days of gratitude challenge. After that, my second goal was that I must be able to read a lot of good books. So now I've started with 100 days reading challenge. And once this is over, I'll have my 100 days fitness challenge, which is like walking, running, or anything, which I'm doing right now also, but then that'll be more consistent and self-disciplined. So this is how I made it for myself. So of course, all of us can have our own journey of what we need to, how I can bring myself into self-discipline mode, what can motivate me and bring me into the habit of doing what I have determined to do. And that can be anything for you. So if we are goal oriented, if we are very focused and disciplined for our goals, this is what is going to inspire all those who see you. So Dr. Aksha, so I hope this answers your question.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. But one thing is, with the distraction, how should I overcome the distraction?
Okay, very good question. I'll ask all of you to please close your eyes. Everyone, close your eyes and don't think about a lion. Don't think about a big, hairy lion, jungle ka raja sher. Don't think about lion. Eyes open. What's happening? What happened? What did you see?
Lion.
Lion. Okay. Let's do another experiment. Everybody close your eyes. Anupama, I think there is some internet challenge. So I think the voice was really breaking. We wanted to hear you. Probably you can type and share. Okay, so let's do another experiment. Close your eyes, everyone. Close your eyes and think about elephant near a waterfall, a very huge waterfall, and there are huge trees. Birds are chirping. You can feel the fresh air. An elephant with its baby drinking water from there. Okay, open your eyes. Did you see lion? No. So lion didn't come. So if lion is a distraction, what we need to focus on is what we need to focus on, right? So if we give, so it's basically how our subconscious mind works. Whatever we focus, whatever we give energy to, it will increase. So if we give more energy to distraction kam karna hai, I have to reduce distraction. We are giving more energy to the word distraction, and that is going to increase. If I focus on, uh, you know, what my goals are, this is what I have to focus on, this is my learning, etc., etc., I am anyways giving zero energy to distractions, and only this will increase. So if what happens, if out of you give your child or any student 10 things to do, okay, and out of 10 only one is the student performs correctly, all 9 are absolutely incorrect. Now we have two approach to focus on. Either we can focus on what went wrong, the 9 things that went wrong, and that is only going to increase, or we can focus on the one right thing that has happened, and that one right thing will increase. That one will become 2, then 3, then 5, 8, and automatically the wrong things will deplete. What you focus on increases. Simple. So while having said that, of course, it doesn't mean that we don't tell them what went wrong. You tell them what went wrong in those 9 things, but just give just the needed attention. Don't give over exaggerated attention to those 9 things, because we don't want that to increase. Focus more on what you want them to do, not what you don't want them to do. Right? I hope this is pretty clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So I'll come to the second last aspect. Okay, great. So I'll come to the second last aspect that I was talking about, learning agility. So learning agility, what does that mean? Any idea, anything that comes to our mind when we talk about learning agility? So again, we are not trying to divert them. We are just trying to focus on the right thing. So focus on, so for example, if the child, you see the child is not at all studying, does not study, mostly does not study, but tries to see the book only for 2 minutes in a day. So find those 2 minutes and appreciate, in those 2 minutes. That's so great. I think you love the book. So focus, give more attention when they are touching the book, even if they're just touching the book. Give more attention to that. So I'll give you an example of how this works. So there is this experiment through that is done. So there is this very popular show that runs in San Diego, California, by the name of SeaWorld. And there are huge, dolphins, but they're not dolphins. They are actually popularly known as killer whales because they are probably the most dangerous species of dolphins, who, of course, don't even see whales as anything. They will end up eating whales also. So they are popularly known as killer whales. Their actual name is orca. They're actually dolphins, but they're known as killer whales because they are popular to eat whales also. They are so huge and magnanimous. So you can imagine, human beings are nothing in front of them. So if they can eat whales when they're hungry, of course, if they're hungry and human beings are in front of them, so you can imagine what will happen. But there is a show that runs by the name of SeaWorld, where these killer whales perform acrobats along with human beings. They do a lot of stuff and they enjoy doing that. And there are thousands, lakhs of people who come travel across the world to see that show. Now, how does that happen? And if we understand how this happens, it is not so difficult to work with students and children. So the same learning applies over there. So, so what do you think? When in the first interaction, when these human beings interact with these killer whales for the first time, what do they do? Any idea?
Ma'am, actually, we need to train them.
Yes.
And they should not be hungry. They should not remain hungry. And we need to train them.
Yes, they should not remain hungry. So, PK Ghosh, sir, I think you were trying to say something. Your mic is on mute. Yes.
Well, I said that there has to be a safety device first. And of course, then whatever you plan to do with that animal, you can do it.
Right, absolutely. So I think one thing very correctly said by Dr. Shweta Ghorsar also, that first, of course, safety, and second, that you ensure that they're not hungry and you form the level of trust with them. So the first thing is that they form trust, that I am your friend and I will not do any harm and I am here to feed you. So the first thing that they do is ensure that they're not hungry and the trust formation is done. So the first step is forming trust, building trust and bond with them. The second thing that happens is very interesting when the training starts. So of course, the training is not like how dogs are trained or any other animal are trained, because what we are talking about is the most dangerous kind of species, right? So it is not similar to dog training or anything. So of course, the human beings, the trainers, they perform a lot of acrobats, and they want these killer whales to imitate, copy those things. Now sometimes they will, sometimes they will not. Most of the times they will not initially. So what do you think these trainers, human beings, do when these killer whales do not perform, do not imitate what is being told to them? What would be they doing?
Ma'am, they should provide them food at the place when they only when they perform that particular acrobat. Once they
Wonderful.
achieve that goal, then we should provide them some meat or something, whatever they eat, or they feed. And if they do not perform, then let them starve for some time. And once they perform, then give them feed.
Right. Very good. So Absolutely very true. So you ensure that you appreciate them. So you give them the reward just when they have performed right. So what happens is we have been attuned to an opposite kind of format since our childhood. So what happens? Say a mother of two kids. So my mother is at home. She is doing her work, and the kids are playing. So the first thing that happens is when the kids are playing by themselves, what does the mother do? When the kids are happily playing with each other, what does the mother do? Gorsa, I think your mic is on mute.
Mother will feel happy and she will do her work very happily.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this is what happens. The moment kids are, doing good work and, playing by themselves, mother feels extremely relieved and will concentrate on her work. But imagine the kids start fighting immediately, and, they start pulling each other hair and, start fighting. And immediately the mother will rush to them, start scolding or explaining to them, etc., whatever. But she will give a lot of energy when they are not in their bestest of behavior, but she gives zero energy, zero focus when they are in the best of their behavior. So there is no reward of being in their best behavior. There is a rather an opposite thing when they are not in their bestest of behavior. So this is where we go wrong actually. So it's about rewarding them when they appreciating exactly when they are doing right. So it's about not catching them doing wrong, but catching them doing right. So this is exactly what happens with these killer whales. When the killer whales don't perform, these trainers will just ignore it. But the moment they do right, they will reward them with food, with fish, whatever is best for them. They will reward just when they are doing right, and that is how these killer whales get in the habit of doing right. They do more and more right because they are in that habit of receiving reward when they do right. So this is exactly how we need to focus with our students, that whenever they are doing right, they need to be rewarded. Reward can be anything, absolutely anything. Now again, there can be multifold kind of reward. Just clapping for them is a reward. Saying out loud their name, that you've done a good performance, you are progressing well. So it's not just about doing absolutely right, perfection, but also progress is also a right step, right? Even if it is a 1% progress. So even rewarding that progress through clapping, appreciating, giving them a badge, giving them a virtual badge, appreciating them on LinkedIn, anything, even if you endorse their skill on LinkedIn, it's a big thing for them. If you write a recommendation for them, oh my God, it is like something has happened. So imagine these kind of virtual rewards also are extremely good and beneficial for these students to stay focused what you want them to do. So the behavior that you want them to, do more of, just focus and reward that, and, it will increase. And like, I think like Dr. Shweta mentioned, rewarding at that time is very important. So it's not delaying. So today I do a good work and after 1 week I receive appreciation, it's already gone. It has to be rewarded immediately. And find creative ways of rewarding. Right? So this is how we ensure that students learn, and students focus on what we want them to focus on. Their behavior, what we want to increase, can be increased. So this is how it happens. So when we talk about learning agility, the first and foremost thing, what exactly learning agility is, we throw a lot of learning to our students. We will teach them a lot of technical things, lot of jargons, lot of assignments to do, lot of tasks to complete. But are they even agile to learn? Are they even ready to learn? So what learning agility means is it's focused on three aspects. Firstly, their ability to learn. We are giving them a lot of learning tools. We are giving them a lot of learning, but are they able to learn? Do they have the learnability? While of course I think it is definitely high, but still we can cross check. There are a lot of assessments that happen to assess their reasoning skills and logical skills, whether they can even comprehend what is being taught to them. So first is learning ability. Now they may have a lot of high learning ability. They are able to comprehend. They are Gen Z and Gen Y. Their ability to comprehend is very good. But do they have the motivation to learn? So for second aspect is their orientation and motivation to learn. Do they even think that this Zoom meeting will help them? If I don't think this Zoom meeting will help them, then okay, my camera is off, my audio is off, I'm not even responding to anything, and my Insta is on. I'm more focused on Insta. So do they even consider this instrument as functional for them for learning? Are they even motivated to learn? The third aspect is I may be extremely motivated to learn. I have good ability to learn, but I cannot find time. So learnability, execution skills. Like I think Renuka ma'am before this had also mentioned about time. I think, and we talk so much about time. We have had so many sessions on time. But again, and why is it? Because it is not overemphasized, but it is like it is something extremely important. Now they may have lot of ability and motivation to learn, but if they cannot find time and they cannot get into the habit of learning, so then it won't work. So now how do we focus on taking out their time from Instagram, from all these kind of making short videos on TikTok, etc., to coming to this? Have we explored of making reels through of learning? So for example, any technical topic, making an Insta reel, because of course now TikTok is banned. So Insta reel and giving a technical topic through Insta reel. Have we explored that? Yes, no. If not, I would suggest go out, explore how to make an Insta reel and think how you can, no idea, okay, no problem. So, because again, why I'm saying Insta reel, because a lot of millennial, Gen Z, Gen Y, Gen Alpha, etc. are on Insta reels. So if they see their professor on Insta reel giving a technical knowledge in 10, 20, 30 seconds, that will motivate them to come to your class. That will motivate them. So it's like a marketing gimmick. Imagine in 30 seconds, you are selling yourself to your students that if I can make an Insta reel, imagine the kind of engagement I can bring in a Zoom, in a session. So if you can see my Insta reel, I'm sure if you like it, I'm sure you are going to come on the Zoom meeting also. So if we are not on Instagram, we are disconnected with our students, because connection is not limited to Zoom. Right. So this
Correct.
is, so in fact, I saw a very recent feature of LinkedIn where it is asking us to make profile video. So not just, having one page profile, but profile video, how you can introduce yourself, who you are professionally in a 30 seconds, less than 1 minute video. Why should people listen to you? So this is very interesting. There are multiple platforms, but again, it starts from first our own learning agility. Are we agile enough to learn these platforms, the technologies that are there in these platforms, to experiment? Of course, we will not be able to make a perfect reel, first reel, it will not be perfect. And if people laugh at you in your first Instagram reel, you have done a good job. If I'm telling you this because this is going to happen. None of us are perfect. Honestly, I feel I hesitate to make an Insta reel because of course this is going to happen. We'll not become perfect in making Insta reel in first go, but this is the first step. Similarly, it happens in any kind of learning. So in fact, we run a English speaking course for people and we tell them that, if in next 10 days, people don't laugh at your English, you should resign from this course because you're not using it then. Because when you will start, of course, you will make errors, but that is the first step. And if people are laughing at you when you speak English and in these next 10 days, means this course is working for you. So it's good. So this is how it's going to be. We'll not be perfect, but we will eventually learn to be. Gorsa, please unmute. Okay, I think there's some network challenge at his end. So yes, any questions before I come to the last aspect of this?
Ma'am, excuse me,
Yes.
ma'am, we are talking about switching to different platforms like making Insta reels of 15 seconds for students. Okay,
Mhm.
ma'am, I mean, want to contradict this thing.
Mhm.
Like we are on WhatsApp, huh? We are being joined with students in multiple WhatsApp groups where we are exchanging different kinds of messages with them, whatever it may be, official messages that you have to do this, that. Then students are messaging us, we are replying back. So 90% of the time, faculty's time, apart from the lectures, is being consumed in interacting with students. So we have our own things to do also, na? So we can't be 100% of the day we can't be in contact with students.
Right.
So there is this thing. So being so much, I mean, I feel that Generation Z is being pampered so much that everyone, Renuka ma'am was also telling those things, and even I felt this thing. Our college management, higher authorities, they always say this thing. It's about every college, I guess.
Mhm.
That student, maybe it's because to customer relationship, that sort of thing, that you cannot scold him, you have to treat him well. Why is it so? We were not treated like that. So maybe that generation gap is there, but it's like that so much attention cannot be given to them, that if they are on Instagram, we should start making Instagram reels. There is an official platform to interact with students, I guess. Google Meet is there, Classroom is there, Google Classroom is there. We are connected to them through WhatsApp. WhatsApp is a social platform. We should not be replying. If you talk about professors from NIT, IITs, or reputed institutes, they don't even give their mail IDs to their students,
Right.
because if they're listening, if they are in their lectures, you will answer their questions back, but not after the lecture.
Right.
We being a faculty of a private college, we are answering to them after the lecture, after the official timings even. Sometimes student message us at late at night, like 11 p.m., 11:30 p.m.
Hmm.
So it's like, I mean, how you take it, I don't know.
Okay, I'm so glad you brought this up. Extremely glad, because I think this may be a very common, aspect of many professionals who must be the same challenge that they must be facing. I'll just tell you what I would do in this scenario. Uh, what I would see as a solution to this challenge, and how I can still, use the platform of Instagram to build my audience. Firstly, that like you mentioned, there are some professors who will not entertain after the class. So okay, that is for them. But if you feel that there is a need of connecting over WhatsApp also with your students, so maybe if I can fix a time that even if there's only an emergency, and if there's an emergency, I think they should be probably dialing 100 or anything else, but they will not come to me if there's an emergency. But unless it's an emergency, I should not be responding to them in odd hours, because that is again giving them the habit of connecting with me at any point of time and not respecting my personal space. So if I respond to them at those hours, I am giving them the leverage of, okay, you can disrupt me in my personal space also. But if I do not respond to them today, tomorrow at 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, when they are, responding me, giving me messages at night, I do not respond, and I only respond after 7 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning. So it will just be 2-3 times, and they will get to know that, okay, even if we ask a question, a small or anything doubt at 11 o'clock, my teacher will not respond. And considering that this is a generation that is more empowered, not guided, they will find their answers on internet. So they will also get that habit of becoming independent for these things. So it will take, so even for parents, when we say that, okay, we have to ensure that our children don't get into the habit of crying over, and crying over something that they want to buy in the market. So the hard part for the parent is that the child will cry for the first or second time. The child will probably, lie down on the road, start crying. But at that time, if as a parent I give in, so I am giving into the, these emotional setbacks, and I will end up buying out of emotional stress. But if I don't give in, of course, as a parent, I have to be a little hard at time to me, that let the child cry. It's okay. Even if people are judging me that I'm a horrible mother, you know, but it's okay. It's people for them to judge, but but for my child to understand a no, you know. So it will be very hard for me, emotionally very stressful for me, to see my child crying at that time and not giving in. But my child will eventually learn a no. So it'll be hard. It'll be hard to stop myself from not responding to the queries at 11 o'clock, but it will help them bring in the discipline of time, respecting my time, my space, and also giving me the time to, build my audience on LinkedIn, on Insta, or any other platform. I would probably, make a video, and I will say, okay, I am seeing all the questions. I will make a video tomorrow to answer all the questions, and that video will answer all your doubts. So I'm not responding one-on-one on WhatsApp, but through one video I am creating my audience, because they will like, comment, etc. So I'm building my audience also, and I'm ensuring that I get my personal space by not responding to their WhatsApp one-on-one messages. It'll be hard initially, but then it'll become a habit. I hope this is a relief.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
Great. Okay, I do agree it may be good engagement tool, but we have so many interactive and engaging platforms. Absolutely. So there, okay. So Dr. Varsha, how can I help? What would be your question? What would be something that you want to add? So yes, there are multiple engagement tools. Like I mentioned, Instagram is just one tool. You see what tool you want to start with. All we need to know is that Zoom is not in and out. Zoom is not just Zoom, Teams, all these video calling platforms, video conferencing platforms are not just the only tool that are existing for connect with our learners, but there is beyond that also, because as you see in those 60 seconds, they are consuming all those platforms. The learners, they are consuming all those platforms, right? If we are just present on this and not those platforms, we are missing out on something. We are missing out on our learners, right? Okay. The last thing that I just want to touch upon for all of us, how many of us are aware of the term design thinking and are probably exploring how design thinking can be applied in learning? Yes, Ms. Anupama, you want to share? Yes.
Yes, yes. As as I know, design thinking means re-exploring the problems, redesigning the problem statements.
Right, right. So very simply put, yes. Anybody else wants to share?
Ma'am, design thinking is a new way of thinking. It's a culture being developed in corporates nowadays. It's like a creative way of thinking. The problem given to the students may be critical looking, but the naive way of solving the problem, the very basic solution you can put forward for a given problem. So it's creative way of doing things.
Okay. Okay. So design thinking goes back to as long as 1962 or even before that. So when there was a bridge being designed in England, if I'm not wrong, so it was more about the approach that was followed in designing the bridge, of how it is going to solve problems that are not even existing today, or I cannot even see today, but it may come up tomorrow. When I think from that aspect, and how, so one is of course, okay, so giving a small example of if I am constructing a public toilet, for example. So one is that a straight line thinker, thinker constructing a public toilet, what kind of we'll have the basic amenities of ensuring water, of course proper sanitation, and everything is there, uh, ventilation. But then after that, what? Now if I have to use design thinking method, I will think about who all are the possible people who are going to use that public toilet. So for example, if it is say for a female, so now if I have to think a pregnant female you coming to use that public toilet, and already has a child, in hand, another child who is a 2-year-old child. So she is coming to use that. Now what can give her comfort? So, or maybe say a person who is physically challenged is coming to use that, is wanting to use that. So what can be done? So probably there should be a ramp, there should be something that is smooth for them if there's a step. Okay, what else can be there? So there should be a seating area if the child has to wait. If the child has to wait, can there be something that can be engaging for the child also, as long as the mother is using the washroom? So, and how can it be made more comfortable? So for a physically challenged person, you will see that there are a rod also that is there to give them support. So that is where design thinking comes in, when you can think from the most critical point of view, what all things will go in it, and then designing the entire infrastructure for it. Now that goes beyond a straight line thinker of how they will construct a public toilet. So this is one example. Now coming to us as a few, a people who are future ready, professors who are future ready. Now when we use design thinking, I have to think, when my student is joining the Zoom call, what all kind of challenges my student can be facing. The student can be facing a lot of background noise. How can I help? How can I resolve that? The student may be facing many other factors. What can that be? And how can I ensure that this can help them solve these issues? And even despite those issues, the students learning is maximum, is optimized. How do I design my session in that way? Or when I'm creating on any platform, when I'm sharing an article, I'm writing an article, so I have to think who all are going to read the article, who's my audience, what kind of mindset they may be into, and how this article is going to benefit them. So even I'm using design thinking even while writing an article or publishing a video, making a video, whatever. So when we female guard to take care of the child at times, so this is a great idea. So when we're doing design thinking and constructing a public toilet, keeping this in mind, so we may have a female guard also that can take care of the child as long as the pregnant woman is using the washroom. So yes, this is where design thinking comes into place. And design thinking, again, like we talk about 5S, like we talk about all these kind of 5S is something that we apply in a daily life also. Similarly, design thinking is something that we can apply in our daily life, day-to-day activities also. Even when I'm cooking, for that matter, or I'm doing anything, how do I design thinking, what kind of problems can come up, and how this activity is solving that? Yeah. So very true. So there's so many ideas that can come up. So this is, so I want to leave on, all of you on this note, that think as future ready professionals of learning, think, if we stop thinking, if we stop exploring, if we stop, experimenting, we are not just stagnating, but we are going backward. So never stop experimenting, never stop experiencing new things and exposing yourself to absolutely new things, learning something absolutely very, very different that we had never thought of before. That is how we can connect with Gen Z and Gen Alpha and millennials and everyone. Having said that, we say that, okay, why is it, that we have to go through this? While I saw this answer, someone said that this is the need of the hour, this is the need of the era. Very true. So I'll give you a very interesting thing. There are a lot of jobs that are that can be taken over by machines, machine learning, AI, etc. Lot of jobs are being taken over. Ours is one job that if we stay relevant into it, cannot be taken over by AI, because human touch is something that will always remain relevant and cannot be taken away by AI, robotics, anything. So if only as long as we stay relevant. So yeah, that's how we can stay relevant. That's all from my side. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for sharing such valuable information about Generation Z and Alpha students. Now I request all participants to ask their queries if they have any. If anybody from participants, if they have any query, please ask.
So I see one question over here. We want a uniform solution of that question. Not everyone use Insta or Reel. So, okay. So like I said, when we use design thinking, think your students use which platform the most. If you think your students use WhatsApp most commonly, maybe you can create a video on WhatsApp, circulate it with them. Just put it on your WhatsApp story, maybe if they see your story, so that you don't have you don't have to put it in particular groups. You just post it on your story and all of them can watch, if WhatsApp is the platform. Whatever platform, I would say there are extremely a lot of platforms. Don't get overwhelmed that, okay, should I make Insta, should I use LinkedIn, should I use WhatsApp? No, don't think about it. Maybe just create one content and post it everywhere. That can also be done. Or just focus on one platform and create that content specific to that platform. So both of these things work fine. There is no one stop solution to it. It is basis your learners demand. What how do your learners prefer learning?
Thank you, ma'am, for sorting out the query. Anybody else? They can please, participants, you can unmute yourself and ask the query directly. If anybody having any query.
Ma'am, I have a question. Can you please let us know what are the other design thinking application that we can apply for the current learning and development, ma'am? Because we are in fact working on those things. It will be helpful for us.
Thinking is right. Design thinking is a concept and is something that has been always there. I would suggest you to read a book. This called Change by Design. I think I might be having that. Yes, just give me a minute. In fact, it's here only. So this is the book, Change by Design by Tim Brown. I would suggest you to read this because there are a lot of case studies also related to how design thinking has helped solve problems in various industries, various aspects. So I would suggest you to read this book to understand more about applicability of design thinking.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.